this is something about posing, right? And this is actually a concern or a criticism that I got recently from a collector who was very nice about it, but he commented and he said, and this is something that kind of ties into the Batman thing we talked about, right? Static poses, museum poses, character poses, anything that's not dynamic, right? Where the character is not in some sort of action pose or whatever, right? I had actually one collector who reached out in the comments and said he hates that people have their figures in these poses because these are dynamic figures and they're meant to be displayed dynamically. Really, really interesting because I view that entirely differently. Most of my characters are in character poses, museum poses, static poses where they just look cool standing there, especially if they're in a skin tight suit that I'm worried about some sort of tearing or ripping or whatever, right? So I'm actually the exact opposite, but there are a lot of collectors who do feel that way. These figures are meant to be posed, they're meant to be displayed in some sort of exciting way, they're meant to be messed with and engaged with. I view it a little bit differently. So I want to ask the question, Kiko. What do you think? Should static poses be avoided? Do they kind of devalue a display, or can they enhance it? What do you think?
Space is going to be the most
Space
important
is the
thing.
biggest thing. Okay.
If you have the space to do something with it, by all means, do it because they're figures. They should be used. I mean, they're otherwise. We've talked about this before. Get statues. I literally don't have a space for this because I'm trying to sell it. So here is an old. Here you go. Here is
Oh yeah,
old.
this guy.
Yeah, here is old version 1 stealth suit cap, which is for sale. But look, he's in a dynamic pose right now. Oh, there's my camera. He's in a dynamic pose right now, and I wouldn't even say that's dynamic, but I mean that's still more than museum pose, and I think that's
Right.
willing to do something with. And if you want this figure, please DM me. We can figure out a great cost. He's just been sitting here. I can ship as soon as I get back from the Weeniversary. But I think static poses are good if that's the only place you have the room for, or you don't
Yeah.
feel, or if you're not a stand person, you're like, I don't want to use any stands. Yeah, then dynamic's probably not a great option for you. But to me, I really want to try to enjoy them the best I can. Not knocking anybody that just literally takes it out of the box and puts it on, their shelf and that's it. Cool, if that's how you enjoy them. But do what it does, do what makes you happy. If you want to pose them up, pose them up. If it breaks, it breaks. It's a shame. I know Nick was talking about do you really even pose if you don't break your figures? Because both
Well, he
he and
breaks everything, bro.
correct. He may push it a little bit too far. And I love he said can't wait to push my in art Joker to its limits. We'll both never figure out what that's like, but that's cool. But I broke my Ahsoka,
Right.
the DX Ahsoka or whatever, and I know he did the same, and that sucks. But that's part of it. You're like, well, they're too expensive to be doing that. Stuff happens. At least I got some really cool pictures out of it. It was fun, and I'm gonna get it fixed, and it's not gonna be a big deal. That it's not the end of the world.
Right.
And someone's showing off some of their reels right now.
Showing off some of the Insta reels,
Um,
but look at the Killmonger
yeah,
pose. That's dope, right?
that
Like
that
it's
that that is a.
simple.
I love what you call them character poses, to where it's not dynamic, it's
Yep.
not museum. It's like I'm here. Here's a little bit of a head nod. Here's a little bit of an arm bend to show that there's a little bit of life in it. Put a
Right.
little bit of life in it. I think that's about all you need.
Right. Exactly. And like I said, with Loki, same thing, right? Like a simple little character pose, get him in something unique, like, that still has him staying there. I like the guys looking like they're ready for combat, because then when you have a lot of figures like that, you have one guy who's like swinging his sword, then you have another guy who's just standing there. It can start to look weird if it's not done thoughtfully. So, Marco, what do you think about this? Is this something that you think about with static poses? Does it bother you at all?
Yeah, first of all, they are your figures, so do whatever the heck you want to do with them. Don't let anyone tell you how you should be posing the figures. Right? That's number one, I think. To each their own. Um, I don't like to use stands, right? I use the base, but I won't use the crotch grabber or the dynamic stand because I view these as like works of art. So I want to bring them to life without pushing them too far to where, there's permanent damage or they, break. So I just try to give just a little bit. I do look around and pretty much I've got the same pose for everyone. He's got an arm bent one way, one straight. They've got some different uses of hands, but that's about it. When you're not using a stand, you have very limited options. That being said, I'm very happy with how my collection is laid out. And so I don't think that there's a wrong way to do it. I think taking it out of the box and putting it directly on the shelf, you're not having as much fun with it as you possibly can. But I guess, like Kiko said, you could argue that I'm not necessarily having as much fun with my figures because I'm not pushing them to their limits. So, yeah, I think overall, give it a little bit to bring it to life, put it up how you see fit. And I think that for most people, that should be more than enough. So I don't think static poses have to be avoided because I think they could look really great that way.
Yeah, I think so too. We got a super chat from Mr. Ben O'Benny. He said characters like Darth Vader with a great silhouette work best in a static pose. Yeah, and look, I'm always worried about bending the arms with the pleather, right? I don't want to leave it in a situation where the figure is going to degrade faster because of the pose that I have him in. So I like to be really careful with that. I don't view it as a straight, I'm protecting my super valuable grail asset, but it is an investment that I made, and I want to value that appropriately and take good care of it and be cautious with it. So Ben O'Benny, thank you so much, bro. I agree. This Darth Vader, look, very simple pose here, but it looks dope, bro. Looks dope, right? That's the kind of stuff I like, and that's probably what I'll do with Carnage as well. Keep him in a, he has joints though, so you can pose him around and do what you want with him. But yeah,
Can I add one more point here?
yeah,
I'm a big fan of the dynamic capes. So, if you
sure,
buy an aftermarket cape, you can kind of get a lot of, so like my Batman here,
Yeah, that
you can get
looks
a lot
incredible.
of, life in the character by not having to do too much. So I'm a big fan of those.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for your thoughts on that one. We are going to wrap the show there. We'll get you out of here before 7 o'clock. Everyone can enjoy their Friday and their weekend.